Hello, all. My name is Elizabeth Martin-Adkins, and I'm going to be reviewing the Keys to Literacy Comprehension Routine by Joan, Sedita. Um, this book has helped me a lot within my classroom. I teach middle school special education mathematics. Um, there are different things that we as teachers can do to help comprehension of middle school students. A lot of the students that come to me are very behind in their reading skills, um, and it's a hard thing for them to fully comprehend all of the new concepts that are being brought to them in middle school math. Um, I'm going to have you do a little activity before I get into the book itself and describing everything that it has. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and in this screen, you're going to see that I use the app Notability. I found that this app is very, very helpful for the students. It'll allow you to project the graphic organizers and things that you're going to use in your room. I use a lot of technology with my iPad for this. I can write on there with my Apple Pen, and it's a lot easier for my students to understand when I'm writing with my Apple Pen, and that they can see me. So the first thing that I would like you to do as an activity for this book, the book review, is to think about the comprehension strategies that you use with your students. And you can pause the video and take your time with this. This would be before reading the Keys to Comprehension routine. Some of the things that I do before reading with my students is talk about vocabulary. I found that having a good foundation in the vocabulary that they're going to see helps my math students a little bit more than just blindly going into the new unit or the new concept. Another thing that I look out for is new strategies to use with my students. So with new strategies, it's always important to teach the students. Another thing that we as teachers should be able to understand is the level at which our students read. This helps make those grade level assignments that we're giving to our students a little bit more understandable if they're accommodated for those students. So now I'm going to go through the book part of the video. And with that, I'm going to just pick out a few things that I found were very interesting within the book. These are things that you can do and you can start with your students within your class. A very critical thing that I did not realize with comprehension is that they're building blocks, okay? And building blocks that we as teachers have to teach our students so that they understand how to comprehend the material that we're giving them. Critical thinking skills are something that have been very, very stressed in recent years with state standards and testing. Being able to have life skills. These are the critical thinking skills that these students are going to need when they are outside in the real world. Another foundation of comprehension is the main idea skills. A lot of our students can't pick out the main ideas of the things that they're reading or the things that they are given to read. It helps as a teacher to teach the students how to choose what the main idea is. A model that I use in my classroom is the I, we, you. I will teach the students what they need to know about a certain topic first. So I will do all of the explanation. I will show them how to work out problems. I will think aloud while I am doing that. Um, the book goes over that being a really big step for our students, that I step. The teacher taking the responsibility of showing the students without the students having to do any kind of skills or any kind of thinking other than watching the teacher perform the concept. Then the we part. This is where the students get involved. They help each other. They help um, the teacher. This can take many different forms. A lot of the time I use guided practice in this. I'll ask the kids questions during this time. Can you do this? Can you do that? That gets the students involved and their comprehension of the skills are increased. The you part, that is one part that in the past I had very much struggled with figuring out all of the different strategies that could be used with my students. I didn't realize that the pencil, test, paper, that wasn't the only way for my students to express how they knew something. Um, Giving the students the choices to work in a way that they are comfortable and with a way that they understand things is very important. So that in that you section, different things can be done. For example, projects, portfolios, drawings. The book goes into a lot of detail about all of the different strategies that you can use to get students to explain what they know. I had recently had my students sing a song. They had to write a song about geometry and sing it for me. Um, these are different things that show students that they do know things and that they can be successful with different concepts. And then text structure. I didn't really think about the text structure and the things that I was having students do um, when giving them a math book. A lot of them have had worksheet upon worksheet upon worksheet, and handing them a math book and saying, hey, let's read chapter 1. Well, a lot of them haven't seen how a math book is set up. Um, they were doing fundamental skills of add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So when they get to the middle school level and we expect them to have a book and to be able to use that book, we as teachers have to step back and make sure that they're able to comprehend how to use that book and how the text structures in that book are going to help them learn. During reading, I just jotted down different things that I thought could help me with my students. One of the big things that this book goes over is the top-down web. And the top-down web is just that starts with a very general topic. So, for example, the Civil War. And the Civil War can be broken down into many different subtopics. So, the next step down on the web would be those different subtopics. Even in with those subtopics, we have even more detail. So then the students would be able to put those details down underneath this secondary part of the web. The top-down web was also color-coded to show the different levels. So, for example, the top could be blue. The second row, everything in that could be green. The third row, everything could be red. It also had step downs with the shapes of each row being the same so that the students understood, hey, This is my main idea. This is my supporting details. These are the details that support those details. It was very, very interesting to see the different concepts that could be used with a top-down web. One thing that I took, and I'm going to screen my mirror again for you. One thing that I took out of this was the 2-column notes. I'd never seen notes done like this before, and I thought it was very interesting way for my math students to be able to take notes. So on the 2-column notes, the one side is for the broad topics that you would cover in your math class or in your English class. And then the other side is the supporting details. So everything from the top-down web that the kids created could then be transferred into their notes. And in their notes, they could have more details. So like, for example, geometry. What is geometry? So we would put geometry in the big idea, and then in our supporting details, it tells about shapes. It gives us a way to find area. It gives us a way to find volume. It gives us a way to find the perimeter. These are all things that would be taught to students under the big idea of geometry. These 2-column notes were very, very successful with my students. They understood that we put that big idea that we're learning about on that left-hand side, and we put all the little details that we want to remember on the right-hand side. Excuse me. The students had a lot of fun being able to create their own 2-column notes, and I would suggest that as an activity, you have students read something within your classroom. It could be anything that they might be interested in, and have them create their own 2-column notes for this. The book goes into great detail about how to implement the 2-column notes, so it's a good part of a read. Another thing that helped me was finding the main idea. A lot of things I didn't understand about how to teach students about the main idea. And this is one of the levels of comprehension. In this, it shows self-cueing. What is the focus of the source? What is important about it? So in self-cueing, the student is asking themselves questions. In Goldilocks, is this idea too specific? Is this idea too general? How can I change it to make it just right? The Goldilocks effects is like Goldilocks and the 3 bears. She didn't like the dad's porridge, she didn't like the mom's porridge, but the baby bears was just right. So therefore, when picking out those main ideas, we can show the students that being too specific is going to be those supporting details, while being too general is just a big, big thing that we can fit all kinds of different details into. And then that just right is the main idea that we want to convey to our readers in the things that we're writing. And then another technique was labeling the bucket. So the main idea would be the bucket. So for example, if I wanted to talk about office supplies would be on my bucket. And the details that I would throw in there could be ink pens, pencils, paper clips, staplers, paper, and so forth. This gives the students a good visual if you are doing it within your classroom. Comprehension for special education students is often hard because it's a very abstract way of looking at things, and it's not tangible. So when you label that bucket in front of them and you start putting in those tangible things that they can see, they start to understand how to comprehend different things. The 2-column notes, the top-down topic webs, the summary, question generation, all of these things are the things that the students will be doing while they're trying to make sense of the materials that they've been given. This is where the comprehension part of the activities go into effect with the students. So, if you give them the top-down topic web or the 2-column notes or a summary, all of these things and the question generation, all of these things are interlinked with each other. They can make connections to the other things. So, for example, the top-down topic webs, you could make a summary out of those of what you've learned and what you've comprehended from the materials you've been given, or you could create your 2-column notes where you pull out all of those supporting details. Or you could generate questions. What are things that you really didn't understand? Or what are things that you want to go back into and reread and to think more about while you're reading? So the next part of this, the during reading. I found that during my reading, I pulled out a lot of different techniques that I could use while the 2-column notes. Being able to create topic webs with my students. Okay. Being able to understand how students build comprehension. Okay, so in this graphic organizer, we're doing a before reading, a during reading, and an after reading. So after reading, I found that I still had a few questions on how this would be implemented in my room. Okay, I wanted to be able to implement these strategies within my room and be able to help my students gain the better understanding of comprehension within the math classroom. I used the 2-column notes with connection of the question generation, but I was still uncertain on if it would work or not. I encouraged other teachers to do this as well. Think about the before reading. What are you reading to your students? How are they going to react to that? The during reading. What are they gaining from this? And then after reading, asking them questions. Asking yourself questions. Did I read that in a way which the students would understand it? Do I believe that there are things that the students need more elaboration on? I looked over each one of these strategies in the book. And within the book, there are many, many other things that give examples and strategies that could be used. I think the important part is being able to understand that this is a routine that is built within the classroom. There are many different routines that we build within our classroom, whether it be to get our students the way they enter the room. This book points out the importance of having a routine for our kids that will ensure that they are comprehending the materials that we are giving to them. So to build those foundations as teachers first, before we move into the complicated concepts that math is going to throw at them in middle school and in high school. Overall, I believe that if you would take the time to read The Keys to Comprehension routine by Joan Sedita, that you would understand the different building blocks that we as teachers can put into place. I would suggest that you go through the book and mark the things that you are curious about. Mark the things that you don't understand. Take time to look at how these things that are in the book and the strategies that are in the book will help you develop the keys to making your students comprehend the materials that you're giving to them. I really liked the book because it gave examples from not only English and social studies and science, where reading is a very, very heavy subject, but it also gave ideas for the math teacher. I found that a lot of math teachers don't really understand where to start because we don't use reading as a foundation of math class. We use adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. The book gives you the big picture of building all of those intricate parts to make comprehension easy for the students. I hope that you have enjoyed my review of the book and that you would enjoy reading this book. I find it very informational. The strategies that I've put into place are very amazing. I would challenge you to look at the book, read through it, ask yourself questions while reading through it. Then put those strategies to use in your classroom. This will allow you to fully understand what comprehension means to these students. That is all I have for this edition of this book review. Thank you.